January 13th agenda meeting of Missouri Public Service Commission. I apologize for the short delay, but we wanted to wait for Commissioner Coleman to get back after her confirmation committee hearing.
Which went very well, sir.
Very glad to hear that.
Uh-huh.
That was your takeaway from it?
The first order of business is to approve the draft minutes from the Wednesday, January 6th agenda meeting. Those minutes were distributed in advance. Any corrections or comments?
No.
All right, all those in favor of approving those draft minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And they are approved 5-0. Next order of business is tariffs and new orders. Oh wait.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what these. I did not think we did. Right. Yes, so it's for next week.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, before we go to tariffs and new orders, I'm going to jump to a presentation.
Mr. Woodsmall?
I'm here. Okay. Jump to a presentation in the case discussion section. This is in KCP&L GMO 2016-0156. We had a presentation from the company on this particular issue a couple of weeks ago under the provisions of our ex parte rule that allowed for such. There is another provision of our rules which allow for this presentation. I will note, though, that while that presentation that we heard a couple of weeks ago and this presentation are both consistent, are both properly made, are both made consistent with our rules, I don't believe that it is I don't believe it's the best public policy for us to have discussions about contested issues in contested cases outside of the hearing room. But because we allowed one side on this issue, I believe it's appropriate for us to allow the other side here. Going forward, I'm going to be very, very hesitant to allow these types of discussions and presentations to take place outside of a hearing room. And for that reason, I'll listen to the presentation. I don't intend to ask any questions, and I would encourage my fellow commissioners to take the same approach. But of course, that is up to each of you. So, having said that, Mr. Woodsmall.
Thank you. Nice to see you again today. I have copies of the presentation for any of you that might not have it. I know it got distributed when I was going to do it before.
I have
Does
an
anybody-
electronic copy, but I'd like a
Okay.
hard copy since you have it.
Did the rest of you have it? Okay.
It's still kind of a hard copy.
Was that last on the 6th?
Um,
I just had to find it here. That was in
I
December.
don't know.
It was supposed to be the Wednesday before Christmas.
It was right before Christmas.
I dropped off that full day of the Purdue.
Thank you. I intend to be fairly quick while the presentation looks somewhat long. Most of it's just background material, so you can look at later at your leisure. But I'm going to run through it. First off, my name's David Woodsmall. As you probably know, I represent MECG, a large group of industrial customers Now, this issue is not an industrial issue. As evidenced by Lena Mannel's presence here on behalf of OPC, this issue affects all ratepayers, including residential customers. Something else to keep in mind, even though they're not here today, staff has been very active on this issue in the past. Staff has historically filed large amounts of evidence on this issue in both of the last two cases, and staff advanced issues that the commission ultimately adopted and are consistent with the presentation here today. So the issue that I want to talk about is the rate making for GMO's Crossroads unit. As the chairman mentioned, about a month ago, GMO made a presentation designed to convince you to change your method for rate making for Crossroads. I want to tell you with this presentation why you should maintain the same positions that you have adopted in the last two cases. Three of you commissioners were on the last case, so you may have some familiarity. You may remember this case. The position that you adopted in those last two cases protected ratepayers. That said, I don't intend to present any new evidence. I don't intend to present any new arguments, just simply to remind you the positions that you took in the last case. So getting on to the presentation, what I want to do is 5 specific things. Real quickly, I want to give some background on Crossroads, where it is located, how it was acquired, those type of things. I want to explain GMO's historic need for capacity and Aquila's historic generation capacity decisions. Specifically, GMO didn't build any capacity for over 20 years. Those lead to 2 issues that you've decided in the past. Valuation issues, and those arise because GMO has historically sought a rate-based value well above its market value. The second issue is associated with transmission costs, and that comes about because GMO has sought to include transmission costs in rates, even though the unit is located all the way 500 miles away in Mississippi. The final thing I want to do after discussing those issues is talk about the commission decision on those issues. As an initial matter, you need to understand the distinction between GMO, Aquila, and MPS. Since this is a legacy issue, those distinctions are important, and I'll kind of address those when I get to the next slide. So now I'm on the background slide. So what is Crossroads? Crossroads is a combustion turbine unit consisting of 4 75 megawatt CTs. It was originally constructed in 2002 by Aquila Merchant, a deregulated subsidiary of Aquila. So here's where the distinction comes in. You see Aquila there. Aquila was a holding company of operating divisions in several states, including they had divisions in St. Joe Light and Power, and rural Missouri, known as Missouri Public Service. So you have Aquila, then you had regulated divisions, including MPS, and then you had deregulated, which is Aquila Merchant. And again, that was the unit that constructed Crossroads. You can see on the next page where Crossroads is, and this raises the obvious problem. You know where Kansas City is, you know where their customers are. Crossroads is all the way down in northern Mississippi, right on the border with Arkansas. And you can tell from the picture here, while their customers are located in the Southwest Power Pool, the unit itself is located in MISO. So you have what's called a seams issue with getting transmission across those RTO boundaries. Again, going on to the next page, Crossroads location. Why is it in Mississippi? Crossroads was initially located in Clarksdale to take advantage of transmission constraints. Remember, it was built as a deregulated unit. Deregulated units go out and they look for opportunities. Where can we build this to make the most money? So they look for a place where there was transmission constraints. You can't get power in there. We build a unit there, they have to take it from us. We can demand higher prices. So these transmission constraints in Mississippi made the purchase of outside energy prohibitive. There's a problem now, though. Now it's a regulated unit for Missouri customers. Those same transmission constraints now make it very expensive for them to get the power out of Mississippi to their customers here, and that's the transmission issue we'll talk about later. So it was built as a deregulated unit. How did it get acquired, and how did it become a regulated unit? So the deregulated market basically collapsed in the early part of the 21st century when Enron collapsed. Enron collapsed. There was not any confidence in the deregulated market, and you had other companies start to go bankrupt, and Aquila felt a big part of that. In 2005 and 2006, Aquila began shedding a lot of their regulated service areas. They sold regulated electric and gas service areas in Colorado, West Virginia, Iowa, Michigan, Kansas, Nebraska. They were getting rid of everything, just trying to hold on. In addition, they started selling their deregulated operations. And this is relevant later, you'll see. Among the deregulated operations, they sold 2 combustion turbines in Illinois known as Raccoon Creek and Goose Creek.
Those were sites. There's several combustion turbines
Correct.
on those sites.
It's very similar to Crossroads. It's a site with multiple combustion turbines. So why didn't they sell Crossroads? Well, they tried to. SEC filings indicate that they repeatedly tried to sell Crossroads, but because of the transmission constraints, no one wanted it. They couldn't even get a bid for these units down at Crossroads. So in 2007, the last gasp of Aquila, Great Plains bought Aquila and got everything that was left over. They bought the Missouri operations, and they ended up with Crossroads because they couldn't get rid of it. After they purchased Aquila, Great Plains tried to sell Crossroads, and they couldn't sell it either. So they were left with Crossroads. Okay, so we've talked about how Great Plains acquired Crossroad. Now let's talk about the utility's need for capacity. We talked about the supply side, the unit. Now let's talk about the demand. And there are many decisions of the commission going way back that discusses this. I've got some sites here. I won't read through them all, and you'll see more when we get to the case. But if you go back through lots of cases, the commission has repeatedly recognized the problem with then Aquila not investing in their regulated Missouri operations. And here's a quote: although every other investor-owned utility in Missouri built generation, Aquila had a policy not to. Instead, Aquila was taking all their money and pumping it in deregulated operations. And they were leaving their regulated operations to get their power through purchase power agreements. And one example of that is contained on the next page. Aquila deregulated, built a unit known as Aries, 580 megawatts. You've probably heard of Dogwood. They've been in some cases. They now own Aries. Well, when Aquila built Aries, they built it as a deregulated unit and then executed a power purchase agreement with the regulated company. So again, rather than trying to build it as a regulated unit, they were trying to extract higher prices by building it as a deregulated unit. So this is just evidence, as the commission recognized in previous orders, that Aquila was not investing in their regulated operations. So you have a quote here from Commissioner Davis, then Chairman Davis, and I'm sure most of you recall him, but he wrote in a 2007 case about this issue, and he says here, there are ample grounds for questioning the prudence of Aquila's management, past and present. And he talks there about their decision to pursue unregulated operations. He says in the second point, there is no question Aquila's decisions have been detrimental to its ratepayers, and these issues will continue to haunt Aquila's management for years to come. Very thoughtful on his part, because this is 9 years ago and he saw what was coming. And so we have these issues for years to come, as he said. So it seems like we have a perfect marriage. In 2008, after not being able to sell Crossroads, Great Plains decided to dump it on its GMO ratepayers. That would seem like, an ideal marriage. You have a unit that they can't get rid of. You have regulated operations and customers that need capacity, and they couldn't get it from Aquila. So let's make Crossroads a regulated unit. Seems like a perfect marriage, but as you can tell by my presence here, it wasn't a perfect marriage. And there's 3 reasons for that. The first part is a timing issue, and Lena's talked about this in several recent cases, and I'm sure you'll see her in the upcoming case. Crossroads wasn't fulfilling capacity needs in 2008 when it was put into regulated service. It was fulfilling capacity needs that were known to exist in 2002. Problem is, it's now a lot higher cost than it would have been if Aquila had invested in 2002. So that's the timing issue. Second issue is the valuation issue. GMO repeatedly sought a valuation for Crossroads of $117.9 million. If you look at their SEC filings during the acquisition by Great Plains, they said its fair market value was less than half of that. This first sentence of this SEC filing, the preliminary internal analysis indicated a fair value estimate of Aquila's non-regulated Crossroads power generating facility of approximately $51.6 million. Obviously, big issue here. They want $117.9 million of rate base, where they say it's only worth $51.6 million. So that's the issue, and I'll tell you how the commission resolved that later. Here's the legal standard for valuation. This is taken from a U.S. Supreme Court case from 1898, but it basically says that the value you use is the fair value of the property being used by it for the convenience of the public. The fair value, not the original book value, it's fair value. So this is the legal standard from 117 years ago. So we've talked about the first issue with assigning Crossroads to regulated operations. That's the timing. The second issue is the valuation issue. And the third issue is the transmission cost. And this seems like an obvious issue given that Crossroads is 500 and some odd miles away from its customers. And there were and still are significant problems and expense associated with transmitting energy from Mississippi to its customers. At the time Crossroads was originally put into GMO's rate base to serve its customers, Clarksdale was in the Entergy service area, and Entergy had a transmission rate of $1.55 per kilowatt month. During the 2012 case, Entergy joined MISO. So now they're paying a MISO transmission rate, which was exactly double. So transmission costs have now gone up significantly. And as I said, this was all part of the 2012 case. So we have three issues. How did the commission decide this? And as I mentioned, three of you were on the previous case. In 2010 and 2011, the commission rejected both GMO's valuation proposal as well as its request to recover transmission costs. The commission said, we don't run into this with other utilities. Other utilities build their generating units in their service area or in the same RTO, so they pay what is a network rate. They don't pay this rate to get out of one RTO to another. So the commission came out, and I'll show you later, they rejected any transmission costs. And in 2012, three of you, Commissioners Hall, Stoll, and Kenny, addressed this issue again, and you again rejected GMO's valuation and transmission costs. So here's a quote from the 2010 case, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the first sentence, this addresses the valuation issue. It is incomprehensible that GPE, Great Plains Energy, would pay book value for generating facilities in Mississippi to serve retail customers in and about Kansas City, Missouri. Commission rejected GMO's valuation, said it was incomprehensible. That was the valuation issue. So what did the commission do? They rejected GMO's valuation. They came up with their own valuation. They came up with a valuation based upon some surrogate combustion turbines. They looked at the Goose Creek and Raccoon Creek facilities that we talked about in Illinois. They are identical turbines, and they were built at the same time, sold by the same distressed company. Seems like an ideal surrogate. So they looked at this, and they knew the purchase price because it was bought by Ameren. They just took it down to a dollars per kilowatt basis, $205.88 per kilowatt, multiplied it by the size of Crossroads, 300 megawatts. They came up with a fair market value of $61.7 million, which is slightly above the fair market value that GPE put in their SEC filing. So that's what the commission has done in two prior cases on valuation. The next issue was the transmission costs, and as I mentioned, the commission has rejected these transmission costs twice. First quote, paying the additional transmission costs is not just and reasonable. Next, thus the commission will exclude the excessive transmission costs from recovery and rates. Finally, in addition to the valuation, the commission concludes that but for the location of Crossroads, customers would not have to pay the excessive cost of transmission. So the commission has decided this twice. Now, the final thing that I want to talk about is that the commission's valuation methodology of looking at a surrogate, the Goose Creek and Raccoon Creek, included consideration of transmission costs. The proxy sale, the Goose Creek Raccoon Creek, was of units that were located in the same RTO. So they came up with a value of 205.88. They assigned that same value to Crossroads and allowed no transmission costs. So now we're on an apples to apples basis. If the commission, in my mind, and this will be an issue in the upcoming case, in my mind, if the commission allows any transmission costs, then necessarily to keep this on an apples to apples basis, you need to reduce the valuation of Crossroads. And that'll obviously be an issue in the next case, but you want to be sure you try to keep an apples to apples comparison when looking at this issue. The final slide, in addition to the commission deciding this issue has been decided by the courts. This issue went to the Western District Court of Appeals, and you can see a quote here from their last decision. The Court of Appeals said, "We don't have any problems understanding what the commission did." So they said it was reasonable. But then they say at the end, they said it was lawful too. So the Court of Appeals said what the commission did was appropriate. GMO then tried to take it to the Missouri Supreme Court. Missouri Supreme Court said, "We don't want to hear it." They tried to take it to the United States Supreme Court. They said they didn't want to hear it. So this issue has been through the courts, and your issue has been upheld. So I'd urge you to continue with that decision. So I want to leave you with 3 points here. The first is Crossroads was a deregulated unit. Keep that in mind. That's why it's in Mississippi. It's located 500 miles away. We don't run into this with other utilities. The second point is no one wanted Crossroads. They couldn't sell it to anybody. No one would even bid on it. It was literally dumped on ratepayers. And as a result, the commission has taken action to protect ratepayers from this decision. 2 commission decisions, the Missouri Court of Appeals, the Missouri Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, all said what the commission did was appropriate. And we will discuss this more, but appreciate your attention. I'll give you a chance for questions, but I understand.
Well, I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to hold off on them until we get into the hearing room.
Sure.
But I appreciate the information.
I appreciate you having us, and if you need anything, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you. No, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I got an electron copy.
Turning to tariffs and new orders, the first is in GC 2015-0335, Ronald Hardin versus Laclede Gas. This is an order dismissing the complaint without prejudice. Any questions or comments on?
I have a slight edit on page 2. We're in version 1, right?
That's correct.
I think that since the heading is order dismissing complaint without prejudice, I think the commission orders that one, the complaint is dismissed without prejudice.
Okay. I think that's it. I think that's implicit, but I have no problem with that addition.
I've made that change in the order that'll be going out to.
Is everyone?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we will vote on version 1 as amended. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is approved 5-0. The second is in EA 2015-0146. This is a motion to compel in the ATXI transmission siting case. The order as drafted denies the motion to compel largely on the basis that the information sought, and this is on the motion to compel against MISO, because we have another one against ATXI, which we don't have in front of us. Okay, this order denies the motion to compel largely on the basis that the information sought was not related to the new information contained in the surrebuttal testimony. And if you remember, it was the filing of considerable surrebuttal testimony that resulted in Neighbors United. I keep on. Is that correct? Neighbors United. I'm sorry. Neighbors United seeking an extension of the discovery deadline, which we subsequently granted. So on that basis, I support the order as drafted, denying the motion to compel.
Yes, do I.
So do I.
Also, yes.
All those in favor of approving that order as drafted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is approved 5-0. The third is in ER 2016-0129. This concerns Ameren Electric's true-up on their FAC. All the parties agree that the amount requested is appropriate, and I support the order as drafted.
Yes.
I do too.
So do I.
Yes. As do I.
All those in favor of approving that order as drafted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to case discussion. The first is 2015-0309. A complaint case filed by staff against KCP&L. We have a memo. Judge?
Just wanted to let you know that the hearing will start on next Tuesday at 8:30. It's scheduled to go for 3 days. I've given you information about the positions of the parties. And, I don't know if it'll actually go 3 days, but there's quite a lot of dispute here, so
Okay.
it could be.
All right. Well, I appreciate the memo. Look forward to the hearing. Any comments, questions?
No.
Thank you. The next case discussion is 2016-0130, Ameren Missouri's FAC tariff adjustment. My understanding is that there has been a stipulation filed on this particular matter. Judge, you want to summarize the issues, and then we'll see what questions commissioners have?
When Ameren, Missouri filed its regular FAC tariff for adjustment of its fuel adjustment clause, there was a motion filed by Office of Public Counsel and MIEC to reject that tariff, claiming that there was a miscalculation of something called the in factor in tariff. Last night, the parties that were involved in that disputed calculation filed a non-unanimous stipulation and agreement, in which they agreed, for the time being anyway, to substitute a different tariff that doesn't have the in factor adjustment in it. And they claim that they will then be working among themselves to try and reach a resolution of that problem on the calculation. So the non-unanimous stipulation and agreement, under our rules, we would need to wait 7 days to see if there's any objections to that. So the commission could, at its next agenda meeting, approve that non-unanimous stipulation agreement if there are no objections filed in that period of time, and if you think that that's a good resolution of the matter. There should be at least one party, one of the signatory parties here, to answer any questions you might have about the stipulation. One thing I might point out is that the stipulation talks about variances from the commission rules that might be needed and requested, although it's not very specific about what rules need variances and why. So with your permission, I would like to file an order directing filing, asking the parties to explain what particular rules need a variance and an explanation of why that's justified.
Okay.
So that you would have that to consider if you were to approve it next week.
I would appreciate that. That makes eminent sense to me. That was going to be one of my first questions. Is staff or one of the parties able to articulate what those particular variances are?
Yeah, I don't believe any are required, and the stipulation just says there may be. But at this point, I don't believe any variances are required. Unless somebody else says it.
Well, the stipulation, paragraph 11 says that the signatories agree that no party will argue that the adjustment is unlawful because it occurs outside of the 60-day timeline. Well, isn't the 60-day timeline set by rule? So isn't that at a minimum one variance that would be needed?
Well, the rule says that the commission shall reject the proposed tariff rate schedule within 60 days and may instead order implementation of an appropriate interim rate schedule. So I think that's what we're proposing to do as part of this stipulation and agreement, is to reject the original rate schedule, and the commission has the authority to implement an appropriate.
But what happens when the negotiations reach fruition and there's an agreement as to how to calculate the N factor, and we have to adjust it accordingly?
The adjustment would be made as part of an adjustment to the FAC rate.
So there'd be a new tariff filing, and so as long as we ruled on it within 60 days, we'd be fine. Is that what you're saying?
Excuse me, fortunately, one of the main drafters of that rule. I don't think we envisioned at the time that there may be this type of circumstance may come up, and there is provisions for an interim rate to go into effect that does not necessarily meet what was filed. What the rule is really silent about is, okay, now there's a dispute, how is that handled? And I believe this was put into the stipulation and agreement in the abundance of caution that some party may bring up and say, well, you can't include that because it's beyond the 60 days. I don't believe that the rule would prohibit you putting the amount in a filing, say the next FAR filing, or even a FAR filing 2 or 3 down the road. The rule is silent, knowing that we don't have a good timeline on how long those disputes can take.
Well, I would be curious if all the parties agreed with that analysis, and I do agree with the judge that it would be appropriate for everyone to take a look at all of the particular requirements of the rule to make sure that there's no additional variances needed, and if are needed, whether or not they're appropriate. I do have one other question, and then I'll see if any other commissioners have questions. All of the parties agree that regardless of how you calculate the N factor, that at a bare minimum, Ameren would be entitled to $269,055. Is that correct? I'm looking at paragraph 6 of the STIP.
Chairman,
Yeah.
I can respond to that.
Okay.
It's basically, yes, there's no party has alleged that amount, that should be no less than that amount in there.
Yeah.
But there is the footnote that kind of keeps it open that as we negotiate and work through this, that could possibly go up or down.
Okay.
So-
Well, I mean, because I guess that answers my next question, which is, if everybody agreed to that amount, why not include that amount in the tariff that we would be considering next week? But I guess your point is that it may go up or down, depending on those negotiations. Okay. So Judge, would you, do you think any additional filings would be needed other than the one that you suggested?
I don't think so.
So, let me just ask one. Okay. All right, well, pending what is filed by the parties on potential need for variances, I think approving the stipulation is reasonable. What parties were in the rate case that have not signed on to the non-unanimous step? Does anyone know?
There was a number of parties that were in that case. It was a long list of
All the
parties.
other IOUs and some environmental groups and
Right. And so, yeah, the only parties in here were OPC, MIEC, and the company. I don't
7
anticipate
days.
any other party will have any issue with this.
Tuesday.
And staff. And staff, I'm sorry, yeah, staff.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
I might have one more suggestion. Because the 7 days to oppose runs on Tuesday, the day before you would have to vote on it, you may want to consider shortening that. I think the commission can vary its rule and have a shorter time to have more time to see what opposition there might be. Would you have any objection to issuing an order shortening that time to oppose the stipulation?
Do any of the parties disagree with that legal assessment? I think I agree with you, Judge. Does anyone else think that we don't have that authority? Okay. So shorten it to 5? Oh wait, 7 would be Tuesday?
Tuesday, so maybe the day before that, Monday.
Okay.
Give you an extra day to look at it.
All right. And you would just do that order by delegation?
Yes.
Any questions for the judge or any of the parties?
Is the effective date the 27th of January? Is that when we have?
That's the tariff effective date.
We have to vote
For,
on next Wednesday.
that's why it'd have to be next Wednesday.
Thank you.
I'm satisfied with that explanation.
Judge, you have direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last case discussion is in the Laclede financing case, GF 2015-0181. And I'll first present my thoughts and then we'll go around the table. I think this was a very, very, very close call. As all of us have said repeatedly, it is inappropriate for the commission to micromanage regulated utilities, and we must give great deference to a regulated utility's financial analysis and decisions. Having said that, our statutes require that we assure ratepayers that any financing authority be limited to purposes specified in the statute. Flexibility or a buffer to respond to market events is not an allowable purpose. The statute requires identification of a direct purpose for the financing and a quantification of that amount. And I believe that the last Laclede financing case order dictates or at least supports this conclusion. And as I have said repeatedly, and as the Commission has noted in prior orders, while we are not bound by prior rulings, regulatory consistency and predictability are furthered when we follow prior rulings absent an articulated and compelling reason to deviate therefrom. The company has indicated that it anticipates financing needs of $300 million and spells out the specific purposes for that amount, I believe that is the appropriate amount for us to authorize. If the company has financing needs beyond that amount, it can set those forth, and if the purposes of such are allowable under the statute, we can extend the financing authority accordingly. My understanding is that this is wholly consistent with how financing cases are resolved for all other regulated utilities, without the need for a hearing and usually within a couple of months. Concerning the conditions, I support the conditions set forth by staff. My understanding is that the CLEAD does not object to those, excluding the one concerning dividends to the parent company, as that issue is moot if we do stick with the 300 million amount. So that's where I am right now. Commissioner Stoll?
Okay. Yeah, this was one of those cases where I guess at first looking at it, I was in favor of the company's position. But as I got into it deeper and we had some additional information, I would also support the position that you just articulated. But I think the order should make clear that, and I went ahead and wrote 3 conditions down that three things that I think should be included in the order, and I have this written out too. The order should make clear that, number 1, this does not reflect on the credit or investment worthiness of Laclede, because had they specified the need for additional debt and equity, then I personally would have granted it because they are well within their limit. I also think the order should make clear that the approved amount is tied to the purpose disclosed by Laclede in accordance with the law. And the flexibility issue, at first I was personally questioning, but it does appear that that's what the law says, that the flexibility is not allowable. And then third, I think the report and order should make clear that the commission, and I already stated this, I guess, could have approved a higher amount if it had been proposed and for a specified amount. So with those conditions, with those statements included in there, I think that that's where I stand. So I also would not have the flexibility amount included in it.
Commissioner Kenny?
Yeah, those are good comments, and when I first heard the case, I too was in favor of the company's position, and I'm still in favor of the company's position. I think the company has proven if you look at their history, they've grown substantially. I think it is well within our statutes that we can authorize this, the amount that they're requesting. I don't want to micromanage a company. I understand the flexibility, but I think that could be viewed at a little differently when you're looking at that statute. I don't necessarily, I understand the word flexibility and why it's being used, but and why they want it, but they can best manage their company. And when you're looking at financial markets, we've all seen the unstableness of financial markets, and 2 months can be an eternity to a bond market. So I think we need to give them the ability to manage their company the way they feel is best met, and that's why I would support the company's position for the $550 million. I also would support the majority of the issues that staff has requested and that Laclede does not oppose, the ones that they do not oppose.
Commissioner Root?
You know, I agree that this commission should follow the prior rulings, like you stated, Mr. Chairman. We should have regulatory consistency. I think those are excellent things. But when I look at this, the capitalization request as a percentage of their capitalization of the company is similar to the past requests they've been granted in 93, 95, and it's half of the requests that they were granted in 2000. So I think by granting the request, I think we are being consistent in following our prior rulings. This specific request is almost 40% of a reduction from what they asked for in 2010. The company has doubled in size and it's tripled its CapEx. I think the financing statutes, based on the PSC Commissioner's unanimous interpretation of them, allows them to borrow up to $1 billion. And this is half of what they're asking for. I know staff position wants the company to be required to come back into the staff and ask the commission for additional authorization and review it. But our own staff's analysis since 2009 has said that a non-contested application for financing averages 70 days. And I agree with Commissioner Kenny, 70 days in the financial market is an eternity. Things can change so much, and that's if it's a non-contested case. So asking them to come back in, you could factually just eliminate the whole opportunity they were trying to take advantage of in the financial markets, because 70 days is a long time in the financial markets. And I also think that what we are saying is that the company is not the ones that need to react to the market, the bond markets. We're asking staff to be the ones that react to it. So it's not the company and their leadership and managing their own company saying there's an opportunity, it's great for our company, it'll be good for the ratepayers, let's take advantage of it. We're saying, we need to go ask staff if that is what they think. And then we're delaying it by 70 days. So I think they're well within the previous rulings of this commission, and they're well within the law to get the $550 million. I think it's the best decision for the company to allow them to run their organizations, seek financing of which they think is the best. They are an A-rated bond company. They're not going to do anything silly to jeopardize that, because that's going to damage that. It causes them to have to pay more in interest if they lose that rating, and those things are very hard. And they have a history of being a well-run company that has not done silly things with their financing. And so for us to put this restriction on them simply just because staff wants them to come back in, delay them, I think is micromanaging the company. And so I would be in favor of granting the $550 million and the agreeing with the stipulations that have been agreed.
Commissioner Coleman?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I thought I knew where I was on this until I started listening to these opinions, which, sometimes they're important, sometimes they're not. But what I'm thinking is that now I probably need to consider this some more. So I'm not going to offer you an opinion on where I am without studying this case a little bit more.
Well, Judge, let's put this back on for a case discussion, I guess, for next week.
Okay.
As of right now.
Thank you.
One more thing on that issue, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
I need to preface my comments that is where I'm leaning, but I do remember asking the company for specific information on the average of the gas industries of companies' quick ratio, their cash ratio, and their current ratio, which is based off of their financial reports, which is already in the record. And to this day, they have not supplied that with the averages for the industry. So,
And that is in the record?
yeah, I asked for it in the thing, and it's all based on their financials. And I had asked them to submit that into the record of the average of the industry.
So there's certain information that you requested at the hearing.
Yes.
That it is conceivable you would rely on in
Yes.
test. Well, then, do we need to not only have it submitted, we also need a motion to supplement the record? Would that be?
It was-
Pass it along to him.
But is that accurate, Judge?
We could make that sort of order, and Judge Pritchett could issue it by delegation.
Okay.
It was volume 2, page 44 of the transcript.
The request that you
Yeah,
made.
that I had asked, and they said they they repeated what I asked for, and they said okay, and then again they said okay.
Commissioner, I thought we filed something. Did we not file a late filed Exhibit 5?
We looked for stuff this week because we didn't see it. So if it is already filed, can you at least just point us to where? Because our staff looked for it and couldn't find it. So
Okay. I know we prepared it.
okay, very
We
good.
didn't file it.
Well, I mean, I know there's lots of stuff that comes in, and it would have been a very short answer. It would have just been 3
Yes,
numbers.
it was
So
on 1 page.
yeah. So if you can just point to us, then
Okay. We will, thank you.
We've got appointments to the Relay Missouri Advisory Committee. What's the next item of business?
Hello.
Morning.
We've got a few vacancies on the Relay Committee that we would like to fill. So we are asking the Commission to file an order appointing Galen Corrado as a hearing position and reappoint Diane Wieland to the speech impaired position. These are 3-year terms.
Okay. That makes sense to me. There's an order attached to your memo, and that.
Mr. Chairman, the order that was attached to the memo was a sample of what we've done in the past.
Okay.
I prepared a new order that will go out by delegation after you vote to appoint these people.
All right. Makes sense to me. Any other comments?
Looks well qualified.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you.
You need to
We
take a
need
vote.
both.
Oh. So we're voting, and then there'll be an order going out by delegation.
That would reflect that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor of adopting that recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judge, do we have an addendum to the agenda minutes of December 16?
Yes, if I can explain what this is all about.
Okay.
I sent you a memo on it. Back on December 16th, we had a closed agenda meeting, at which time there was a discussion about the CanStar transmission rate case. And the commission, during closed session, voted to authorize staff to not oppose that agreement.
Shelley?
Yeah, the authorized general counsel's office
Yeah.
through our attorney, not staff.
I'm sorry. So anyway, that rate case has now been settled at FERC, and under the Sunshine Law, that vote should be made public.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to accomplish here, and mechanically we'll do it by inserting a link in that, in both today's agenda session and in the December 16th open agenda section, in the minutes, I should say, that will direct people to the that vote that was taken there.
Okay. How do we do we have to vote on that here?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, comments for the judge on that? All those in favor of adopting that recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
now what if we would have voted no now? What would have happened?
We would record it as a no. So.
You did not have authorization.
All right, let's turn to scheduler. We have agenda set for noon of next week to accommodate the complaint case that's going on the 19th, 20th, and 21st against KCP&L. The following week, we have agenda set for noon to accommodate the ATXI hearings that will take place that week. We also have local public hearings starting in Missouri American Water, starting that week as well. Following week, February 3rd, we have agenda scheduled for 1 o'clock, being the first Wednesday of the month. And then on the 10th, we go back to our usual 9:30 agenda time. The following, on the week of the 15th, we have our NARUC winter meetings. I think we need to determine whether or not an agenda would be necessary or not that day. If possibly not, we might cancel. If it is needed, we might move it to the end of the week. The following week, on Wednesday the 24th, we've got agenda set for 9:30, and that concludes February. As always, if you have travel needs or other scheduling issues with when we have agenda scheduled for, please don't hesitate to let me know.
And then Monday is a state holiday, Martin Luther King's birthday. And then tomorrow, is that a state holiday for anybody's birthday?
I heard something about that. It's like a big
I
one.
think,
It's like a big one.
I think it's a PSC holiday.
It's a big one.
Yes, it
Tomorrow is Chairman Hall's birthday.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Chairman Hall.
So sweet.
I just thought we should bring it up.
He's
I'm
hitting
sorry.
the half-century mark.
No.
No, couldn't. Couldn't. Inconceivable.
This is just the over the heel one.
Half-century.
Not
That's
that.
good.
But anyway.
That's still pretty young.
So, okay, we'll all be here tomorrow. But
All right. Yeah. Any further business coming before the commission?
no.
Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.